When we think about our ancient ancestors, it's easy to picture this simple, straight line leading right up to us. But what if I told you that one of our ancestors wasn't just some stepping stone? What if they were, by a really crucial measure, the most successful human species that has ever lived? Well, this is the incredible story of Homo erectus.
2 million years. Just let that number sink in for a second. That's how long Homo erectus was on this planet. To give you some perspective, that's the official Guinness World Record for the longest surviving human species. Our own story, it's just a tiny fraction of theirs.
And this is where that number really hits home. The Neanderthals, our most famous cousins, they lasted for about 400,000 years. And us, Homo sapiens, we've been around for roughly 300,000. So yeah, Homo erectus outlasted us by a factor of almost 7, and counting. They lived through ice ages, massive volcanic eruptions, epic droughts. They were the ultimate survivors.
So, what was their secret? How did they pull this off? Well, while their ancestors were kind of evolutionary compromises, bodies still built for the trees but awkwardly trying to live on the ground, Homo erectus was a total biological revolution. They were the first to have a body plan that looks and moves just like ours. They were built for a life spent entirely on 2 feet.
The jump from their predecessors, like Homo habilis, was absolutely massive. I mean, their brain size nearly doubled over their long reign. They got taller with the long legs and shorter arms that we'd recognize in a mirror, and we know this for sure thanks to amazing fossils like the Trichinoboy's skeleton. But this wasn't just about looks. This was a fundamental shift that freed up their hands to create, to carry, and ultimately to conquer a whole new world.
And that new body, it wasn't just for show. It was a high-endurance machine, perfectly engineered for covering huge distances across open landscapes like the African savanna. It's like every piece of their anatomy was being fine-tuned for a more active, more mobile way of life.
Let's break down some of these amazing adaptations. They were the first hominins with a nose that stuck out, which helped them save moisture in dry air. They lost most of their body hair, turning them into master sweaters, basically a super efficient cooling system for hunting under a hot sun. Even their rib cage changed, becoming barrel shapes to support the heavy breathing you'd need as an endurance athlete. These weren't random little changes. This was a complete performance package for a brand new way of life.
So, equipped with this revolutionary body and a bigger, better brain, Homo erectus did something no human ancestor had ever done before. They walked out of Africa. And this wasn't just a small trip. This was the beginning of the human story as a global story, making them the great travelers of evolution.
Their journey was just staggering. They started out in Africa nearly 2 million years ago, but by 1.8 million years ago, they'd reached Georgia. From there, they just kept going, pushing east across Asia, leaving behind famous fossils like Java man in Indonesia and Peking man in China. They even eventually made it all the way to Western Europe. Before Homo erectus, no one had ever come close to conquering the globe on this scale.
So how did they do it? Well, they weren't just walkers. They were thinkers. They were innovators. Their incredible expansion across the planet was powered by 2 game-changing technologies that completely changed their relationship with the world: seriously sophisticated stone tools and the mastery of fire.
Okay, first, let's talk about their tools. They invented something we call the Acheulean industry. Now, unlike the simple rock choppers their ancestors used, these were elegant, 2-sided hand axes. And to make one of these, you have to have a mental blueprint. You need planning, you need foresight, you need abstract thought. This wasn't just about making better tools, it was proof of a much more complex mind at work.
But their greatest innovation, this is the big one, was mastering fire. This wasn't just a new tool. This was taming a fundamental force of nature. It's truly one of the most important moments in all of human history, a discovery so profound that we are still living with its legacy every single day.
You see, controlling fire changed everything. It gave them warmth, which let them survive in colder climates. It gave them protection from predators in the dark. And maybe most importantly, it allowed them to cook their food. Cooking unlocked way more nutrients, which in turn fueled their growing brains, and it turned the campfire into the very first social center, a place for community, for sharing, and for communication.
So let's put it all together. You've got a modern body, a growing brain, sophisticated tools, the power of fire, and a global presence. This isn't just the story of some long-extinct relative. No, this is the story of the very foundation of what it means to be human.
And you really can't overstate their importance in our own family tree.
Homo erectus is the direct ancestor of another species called Homo heidelbergensis, and that's the species that would later branch out into the Neanderthals, the Denisovans, and eventually us, Homo sapiens. So you see, their story didn't just end, it evolved directly into ours.
And that means they weren't just surviving out there. They were building the first real human societies. They worked together on organized hunts. They formed complex social groups. And we have fossil evidence of healed injuries that suggests they actually cared for their sick and elderly, a true sign of compassion. They were the innovators, the explorers, and the caregivers who laid the groundwork that all later humans, including us, would build upon.
And that brings us to a final, pretty big thought. Their incredible 2 million year story of resilience and adaptation is way more than just ancient history. It's a mirror. It forces us to look at ourselves and ask a tough question. What was the secret to their incredible long-term survival? And in our own rapidly changing world, are we learning the right lessons from our most successful ancestors?
History isn't dust, it's a journey through time. Here on History LM, we tell it simply and fast. If you love discovering the past in just a few minutes, hit like and follow History LM. Your next journey through time is waiting.